So I'm sitting here with my little turmeric latte. So cool and trendy. I tried the new one. Doesn't matter. That's not what this is about. This week, September 23rd through the 29th is Banned Books Week. And when I read that, I started to think about the books that I love that have been challenged. It's kind of crazy when you start to read about why and what books have been challenged. So I'm going to show a book every day that has been challenged. So my very first one is The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian, Sherman Alexie. He's one of my favorite authors. I love this book so much. It's about a Native American boy trying to make it in the world, and I love it. It has been challenged for profanity and being sexually explicit. It basically just talks about masturbation at one point. Not very provocative, but the story in it is beautiful. And this is for sure one of my top picks that have been banned. Hey, so Banned Book Week Day 2, and I have my second choice for you. The one I chose today, I really thought about this one, but I chose The Perks of Being a Wallflower. This was a movie that came out, I don't even know how long ago. I didn't really love the movie. I loved this book so much. I read it when I was probably about 20 years old, and it just had that perfect amount of angst that I needed at that time. I have reread it since, and it's one of those ones that I can recommend to teenagers to read, but I also think it has a lot of really good stuff about being an outsider and maybe some sexual abuse and stuff like that. So this is a great one. It has been challenged because there are drugs and alcohol in it, homosexuality, and offensive language, which is perfect. So that's why it's been banned, and it's a good one. So you should definitely read it. Hey, so day 3 of Banned Books Week, and the one I chose today is one of my favorite classic novels. I wanted to throw it back a little bit, and it is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I think most of us know what this story is about, but if you don't, it is the story of Jay Gatsby and his pursuit of the past. The narrator is Nick, who kind of sees it all from the outside, and kind of mingles with all of these super ridiculously wealthy people. And it's such a good novel. My favorite thing about it is it's such a slow starter. So it kind of builds and builds and builds, and it's this great, fabulous ending. I love reading this one with students. It has the best ending line. And it's been challenged for sexual references, language, and violence. People don't like that. So that's today's choice. Hey, it is Banned Book Week Day 4, and my choice for today is Persepolis. It is the author's graphic autobiography of her time growing up in Iran after the Islamic Revolution. And it's super, super interesting. If you haven't seen this before, it's so good. I think this was my first graphic novel, or one of the first ones that I had ever read, and I loved it. It was one of those books for me that I just could not get enough of, and I didn't want it to end. So it's super, super good. In 2014, this was the number 2 most challenged book, and I have my little note here because there's a bunch of things that it was challenged for. There is gambling in here, offensive language, political viewpoint, which duh, and there are graphic depictions. And the one I loved the most, the quote, was politically, racially, and socially offensive. I loved this one, and I hope that you guys pick it up. So it is Banned Book Week Day 5, and today I chose kind of a random one. I was just looking at some lists of classic novels that have been banned or challenged. This one has never successfully been banned, but it has been challenged quite a bit, especially in, it looks like, the 80s. But I chose a separate piece. Now my copy is ancient, but I have a thing where I like to keep the original copy that I read. So this was my mom's copy, actually. This is the first book that ever made me cry. I don't cry easily with books for some reason, cry easily with everything else, but this one made me cry. It's a story of 2 kids going into, well, they're at a school during World War II, and they're kind of being primed and encouraged to join up afterwards. Some of them want to join early, and I just love this one. It has been banned for graphic and offensive language, and my very favorite quote was, someone called it a filthy, trashy sex novel. Hey, it is day 6 of Banned Book Week, and today I'm going to celebrate my number 1 book of all time. It's the book I always say is my all-time favorite, Can you tell by my t-shirt? I got this at outofprintclothing.com. It's the book that I have not one, not two, but I have 3 copies of, and I have had to fight with myself for buying other copies as well, and whatever. So To Kill a Mockingbird is my all-time favorite novel. I think most people are familiar with it, have had to read it in school. It's the story of Scout and her growing up in Alabama and just going through life and figuring out things about being a kid and being, having people that are Black, having people that are white in your community. I think it is a perfect novel, and if you haven't read this one in a while, I would highly recommend picking it up because it's still so good. Also, I forgot to mention that the reason it has been challenged over and over and over again forever, I think even last year, it was still on the top 10 most banned or challenged books in the US. Even in 2017, people don't like that it uses the N-word so much. People don't like that it has violence. There's all sorts of reasons that people question this, but I think it hits a nerve oftentimes because it's still very relevant. I'm losing my lighting. It's very weird. Okay, see you tomorrow. Hey, so today is the last day of Banned Book Week, and I saved my faves for last. I chose the Harry Potter series. This one is the very first one. This is the first copy that I ever read. It's very well loved, and I did even dog ear pages, which I know is a very polarizing topic, but I have not I haven't dog eared any other copies. I think this novel is such a classic one. The whole series is classic. And I think if you're an adult and you've never read these, I know a lot of people feel like they're kids' books or books that you would read to kids, but they really are a great story, and I think that honestly anybody could love them. They have been challenged for the witchcraft, Satanism, occult, anti-family themes was one that I read. It's all sorts of things, but I would say it's exactly the opposite of all that, and just because there's witchcraft in here does not mean anything against religion or anything like that. So